Teens and Weight Control. Welcome everyone to My Weight World TV. I'm Dr. Brenda, MD, and today we have our registered dietitian Janice Baker in the studio with us. We're going to talk about teens and weight control. Welcome, Janice.
It's great to be here, Brenda.
Let's start out with the nutritional needs for teenagers versus adults. What are the nutritional needs for a teenager?
Well, nutritional needs are very important because they're still in a growth phase. They're growing very quickly. They're oftentimes very active in sports and other activities. So because of that, they have more calorie needs. Their bones are forming. They have higher needs for calcium and other nutrients. So it's very important to pay very close attention to what their needs are. But also they can vary quite a bit depending on their age and, again, what their everyday activities are like.
Can good nutrition and weight control as a teenager help chronic problems as an adult?
Oh, certainly. I mean, this is a time when they're really learning how to take care of themselves for life. So when they establish good, healthy eating habits as a teen and learn how to keep those going on a regular basis, that's going to help them avoid a lot of problems for the rest of their lives. So it's very, very important for them to really learn how to eat right at this point in time of their life.
Okay, so healthy eating habits right away.
Sure.
So I know teens, and I don't have one yet, but one's coming up, the skipping the meals.
Yeah.
I think that teens think that that might help them save calories. Or
Yeah, we see that a lot. A lot of teens, especially girls, they think, well, you know, all of a sudden I feel fat today, so I'm going to skip a meal and I'll be better. But, you know, what we know about skipping meals, especially in the teenage years, is it often leads to over-consuming later on, which can be over-consuming most likely the wrong foods. You know, when you're all of a sudden starving, you're not grabbing apples, you're grabbing chips or cookies or things like that. So it leads to a worse pattern of eating behavior than before. So skipping meals is also very big of a problem because their brains and their bodies depend on consistent nutrition resources, especially for school, doing schoolwork, for sports activities. So they're doing themselves a lot of harm.
Yeah, I think typically they skip breakfast. So.
Yes, a lot of times, well, because we know teens love to sleep in,
Right.
and they're rushed in the morning, so skipping breakfast is very common, unfortunately. And sometimes they don't even eat their lunch in school because of the way schedules are. So a lot of times they'll come home from school and eat enormous amounts of food all the rest of the day. And again, it just sets up a very big problem that perpetuates itself.
So how can we give them some tips about how to not skip meals?
Sure. Well, when I work with teens, I always go over, first of all, their patterns of food intake. Not just what they're eating, but how they're eating. So I always start off by saying, if nothing else, start eating breakfast. And it can be something very simple. It could be a quesadilla. It could be a bowl of cereal. It could be peanut butter on toast. Just get them to agree to something as they're going out the door.
Just at least start the day off.
Yeah,
good.
start the day off. And not just the food, but getting them in the habit of eating breakfast. It's the habit that you want to create that, again, will carry them through their adult life. And then make sure they have something that they bring with them to school that's also relatively healthy, so they're not going all day without eating. So it could be a sandwich, it can be some boxes of raisins or bags of nuts or a granola bar, you know, something at least to get them through the day, and make sure they're having lunch at school as well.
Okay, so have them bring something from home,
Right.
healthy snack from home, so
Yeah.
they're not buying something out of a vending machine or something.
Exactly. In a lot of schools, they sell things like chips and sodas and things that varies from place to place. But again, a lot of the food sold at schools isn't so healthy. It's there to raise money, but it's not great for their bodies.
Okay, so bottom line on skipping meals,
Don't skip meals, especially teenagers, because of their high growth rates
Yeah.
and high metabolisms. They really actually need to eat about every 3 hours. I mean, kids will need to eat breakfast. Sometimes they'll have a mid-morning snack, lunch, and most of the time they'll need to eat when they get home from school. And a lot of times teenagers are at school till 5 or so in the afternoon because of sports and other after-school activities. So really making sure they have food and healthy snacks in their backpack is very essential.
Okay. You mentioned snacking. What about snacking? Is it true that I don't know, I read somewhere that teenagers rarely have 3 meals a day, that they're consistently snacking, which is okay.
Yeah.
But
well, it's got to be planned. And
Okay.
actually, teenagers really need snacks, again, because their days are often very long. A lot of times they have very high calorie needs, especially if they're involved in athletics.
Okay.
So they really need to have enough calories, enough nutrition, and you just can't get that from 3 meals for the average teenager that's involved in sports. So they do need to have snacks in between meals. So it is what counts is what kind of snacks they're having.
Right. And that was my next question.
Right.
Positive or negative snacks.
Yeah.
How do you help them?
Snacks should be like mini meals. So a snack for a teenager could be something like a sandwich, a bowl of cereal, a quesadilla, some peanut butter and toast. Those are fantastic, healthy snacks that contribute to their well-being and their health. Chips, soda, cookies, candy bars, they're just getting calories, which they may be burning off, but they're not getting the protein, vitamins, and minerals that they need to supply their body with all the items that they need for growth.
Now, we're supposed to have our healthy meals also. So how do you time the snacks with the meals, and then you're eating all the time?
Right.
I'm putting on weight hearing this. So.
Yeah, I know. Again, It depends on the teen's needs. If it's a girl who's a teenager, we got to realize girls need less than boys in the teen years, and that's where it gets really tough. Girls stop growing by about age 15, and they tend, in many cases, to be less active unless they're, an athlete. So girls maybe need about 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day. Again, that varies depending on their activity level. Where teenage boys who are athletes, sometimes they need as much as 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day. That's a huge difference.
Right.
So first of all, you got to find out what your teen's needs are, what they're doing. Check in with the pediatrician to see how their growth is going, and educate them. This is what your body needs. And then when we see what they need, find out how we can fit in their meal patterns and choices to those needs. So again, for teenage boys who are athletes who need a lot of calories, they need to eat, again, maybe every 2 or 3 hours sometimes to keep up with the demands of their body.
Right. So it's dynamic. If you're a girl and maybe you're in the basketball season, then she might have to eat healthier, more snacks at that time, but then adjust back if the season ends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is that a lot of us as teens and as kids, our bodies tell us what we need. When we start restricting or falsely improvising special diets on our bodies, then we start to really mess up our whole notion of what is right for us. So again, regular healthy meals at regular intervals will keep us well fueled, it'll satisfy our brain, and we won't tend to overdo it or underdo it.
Okay. What about watching TV and snacking? You know how they'll come over, get something, go to the TV and start snacking?
Right. Well, you know what? That's a habit that really should not be there, because that sets them up for bad habits in adulthood. And it's true that teenage boys especially, they can get away with a lot during the teen years because their calorie needs are so high. But if these habits persist into adulthood, and we know habits are very hard to change, that's when we see the weight really start to creep up. And young men in their 20s and 30s, all of a sudden they're not as active, they're not growing anymore, they're still eating in front of the TV, so that's when they start really packing the weight on. And that's when the health problems start.
Right, so no snacking in front of the TV.
Right, that's what I would suggest.
How about when teens are eating away from home? Healthy food choices.
Right.
Restaurants.
And that's bound to happen, and they're influenced by their buddies and what everyone else is getting. And, I think teenagers should have fun. It's a great part of their lives to go out and have fun with their friends. But if you can encourage them to get water instead of a lot of soda, try to order a hamburger with not so much cheese, maybe share an order of fries with their friends. That way they can still fit in, have a great time, not be isolated socially, because that's never good. But know that they still have some control. So it's very important for teens to get out, be with their friends, and socialize, and that means eating. They love to go out and eat, but you can balance it out at the same time.
And if you educate them as a teenager, then they'll have those same healthy habits when they're adults.
Exactly, they'll be all ready to take care of themselves as adults.
Maybe take the kids to the website of each restaurant that they frequent and check out the nutritional content of each of the foods.
You can show them the websites, show them the differences in nutritional the content of the different foods, but also go to the restaurants with the kids. Have a meal out with your kids and say, you know, it's probably a little bit better to get just a regular hamburger than the quarter pounder with 3 slices of cheese and the big order of fries. And teach them as you go. It's always better to have that real physical setting.
Right. Teach them how to order, and if they're hungry and they can need to go back and get
Go
something
back
else,
and get
then
another
go
one.
back.
Don't order everything at once.
Right. Especially since it's so fast anyway.
Exactly.
So. How about dieting in teens?
Yeah. You know, that can get dangerous.
Yeah.
And a lot of girls are very susceptible to this. You know, they again have different growth rates, different growth needs. A lot of girls will stop growing maybe at 13 or 14, and if they're not physically active, their weight starts to pile on. And girls are very self-conscious, of course, and can feel the need to start dieting or restricting their food intake. They want to look like the other girls. They want to look like the perfect size that we're being shown all the time. And so girls, in many cases, will start to restrict their food intake or make unhealthy choices or go on special diets. And many times those are short-lived, but what they can produce is, in some cases, just very unhealthy eating habits. They'll cut out milk. They won't get the calcium they need for their bones to grow. They'll start overcompensating later in the day and then eat more unhealthy foods.
Right.
But in some cases, it's very dangerous because these can lead to eating disorders where girls will start to really restrict. They'll lose a lot of weight. They'll get a lot of praise for their weight loss. They'll keep on restricting, and that will go into a very serious eating disorder called anorexia nervosa, which once that starts, that's very difficult to turn around, and it can be deadly. Another eating disorder that's also a problem is called bulimia nervosa, and that's when girls, again, they'll start restricting their food intake, but then they can't stand it anymore and they overcompensate, and then they feel guilty about eating too much, and they'll cause themselves to vomit to get rid of the calories. And they think, oh, once in a while isn't so bad, but then actually that behavior becomes addictive. And it can be life-threatening as well. It can destroy tissues in your body, destroy your teeth, upset your body's chemistry. And these are serious eating disorders that, again, really should be stopped before they start. So that's why, again, it's so very important to educate these teens about healthy eating to prevent this from starting in the first place.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, the healthy habits, if you develop them when they're young, help prevent the eating disorders, the nutritional deficiencies.
Exactly.
So what you want to try to teach your teen is how to eat healthy and not to diet.
Exactly.
Keep the word diet out of the language.
Right. Role model healthy eating. Approach all kinds of foods with just very neutral emotions. Don't call foods good or bad. Just say, you know, it's good to eat fruits and vegetables. You know, we'll have a couple of cookies after dinner. That's not a problem. We're going to have it here together as a family. We'll eat together as a family. We have breakfast because that's how we feed our bodies in a healthy way. But, you know, the parents really do themselves need to role model healthy approaches to food. And the more you can eat together as a family, that's one of the best ways to safeguard your teen's health.
Okay. Well, thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
All right. And thank you for joining us. And please tune in again to My Weight World TV so we can help you reach your goals with our community. I'm Dr. Brenda, MD, and thanks for watching.